Every person who gets results has had weeks where they just don't feel like doing the work. And this is something that doesn't normally make it into a case study. And this is about one of my clients, Tammy, who before had tried things like using LinkedIn to generate deals. And once we installed just a little bit of software, it meant that she didn't have to worry about finding the motivation to show up to get the work done. And that is what I wanted to cover for you today, to understand what it looks like when you have automations and tools that just do the work for you, so that when you don't feel like showing up, you don't have to. So the first thing you have to understand is that LinkedIn has a limit. So they have a limit in typically how much you can send per day and how much you can send per week. And it's really spread out over the course of the week. I've seen accounts that can go as maximum as 40 connection requests per day. That's something that I have personally, but do understand that I've been on the LinkedIn platform. I publish content every single day. I engage every single day, and I have just well over 14,000 connections. So it's a very well-used profile. Not everybody comes to me with that kind of what we call a social selling index score. So what you have to understand is that because there is this limit, that means that if you miss a day, if you skip a week, you're never getting that back. Those limits are never coming back to you. So it's really, really important that you have something logging in on your behalf and at least sending the connect request. Forget all the automated, forget any sort of AI, forget any sort of AI commenting. I'm talking about having something that's outreaching to your most ideal clients. Has a list, it already has a preempted list of who it is that you want to make these connections to. So that way, when things happen, when client fires need to be put out, when you just don't have the time or the capacity to be working on your outreach efforts, you at least have a way of a system that is continuously connecting you with your ideal client, so that when you do have the capacity, when you do have the space, when you do have a new offer that you want to outreach to these people, you at least have that system that's been set up for you. So there's a very structural problem that happens with LinkedIn. It is very dependent upon motivation, okay? So I do have another video where I talk about the daily workout and things that we use on LinkedIn to get the 2 to 3 appointments per day. But that is based on you having the motivation to show up. LinkedIn outreach does require it to compound. I did not get my over 14,000 connections overnight. Yes, I started back in the day when you could send 100 connection requests per day, and I had just covered that is a place of no more. But now what's important for me is that as I'm thinking about the future of who our ideal clients are, who I'm going to be doing this outreach to, what my offers are going to look like, I at least have a campaign that's outreaching to 40 people per day, whether I feel like showing up and logging into LinkedIn or not. I'm actually really big on batch creating. I batch create all of my content. I batch everything together, and I'm perfectly honest with you, I try not to log into LinkedIn every single day. I am lucky that I have a team, but I at least know that I have software in the background that is continuously putting me back out in front of these people, that is at least sending a connection request to them. So it's important to note that the people who get consistent results are not the ones who found a way to feel motivated every single day. They're the ones who stopped making outreach dependent on how they feel. They built a system that runs regardless, and then they just showed up to manage the conversations. It's a very different, higher leverage task than clicking through profiles and copy-pasting messaging. So the people who get consistent results are not the ones who found a way to feel motivated every single day. They're the ones who stopped making outreach dependent on how they feel. So they've built a system that runs regardless, and then they just show up and they manage the conversations that come from that automation software. So it's really the most highest leverage task that you, as anybody who's in founder-led sales, or even when you have a sales team who is running this play, you don't want to have to be manually going into different profiles and copying and pasting messages and using some random spreadsheet to know who it is that you've contacted and who you've connected with. And this should bring you a little bit of relief, because this is not a discipline problem. This is an infrastructure problem. The goal isn't to feel more motivated. It's to remove motivation as a variable entity. And that's really what happened with my clients like Tammy and Emilio and Arnie. They didn't succeed because they were more disciplined. They succeeded because this tool has the ability to log in every single day and do the work for them without them needed in there. So Tammy, she closed $9,000 in 40 days when I installed this for her. She's now booking 3 to 4 calls a week. And Emilio got a mid six-figure contract. That contract was worth over $366,000 from this exact software that I'm showing you today. And then, of course, we had Arnie. He got his very first ever cold outreach sale because the system ran through any sort of doubt or needs for motivation. You just set it up once and you let it run, and then they just have to log in and handle the actual conversations. So when I met with Tammy, seeing her close $9,000 in the first 40 days of implementing this was such a cool experience, because when you can see the investment pay off that quickly, like tenfold, it's very fun for me on the other side, for the person who said, this is going to be a good idea for your business. So just on the very basic, if you were just using the very basic tools of something like Connector, which is the software tool that we recommend, that we build all of our client campaigns on, there is a link in the description below if you want to grab a 7-day free trial. But basically, it will show up on those weeks that you don't want to. So it sends the connection requests, it can do the automated follow-up, it can take in something like a sales navigator filter, it can take other custom lists and things that you have. We really like to use our intent data and Sales Navigator to run these campaigns off. But basically, the system's job is not to replace you in the conversation. It's just to get you out there shaking people's hands. So we all know the most powerful thing when it comes to investing and having a portfolio is time in the market and having interest that compounds. And that is really what this does, because I have taken many a times off from LinkedIn where our ads are really popping off. We've reached full capacity of what we can do with a certain amount of clients. But I know that there are going to be times where, okay, now it's time to sprint. Now it's time to look for our next set of clients. And because this system was running autonomously in the background, I knew that we had a whole new list of people that we could reach straight into the inbox for. I didn't have to cold call them. I didn't have to try to break through cold email. And I didn't have to go and spend the insane amount of money that we spend on ads in order to reach new people. It's literally pennies on the dollar of what I'm able to bring in as new leads. And because you watched this video, I have a 7-day free trial for you. If you click on the description link below, as well as the pinned comment, you will see a link there. It will take you over to put in a 7-day free trial. All you have to do is hit connect. And if you want to send me an email to support@salesbites.co, and you say, hey, Kira, I just watched your YouTube video, I'll actually hook you up with my best templates, the exact templates that we used for a lot of these testimonials that I showed you in this video on exactly how we get those results. I'm going to give you the exact messaging that we use so that you can get started off with a campaign that's going to start booking you sales calls right away. All right, thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, be sure to hit subscribe. Don't forget to like the video. I put out these videos every single week on how we use outbound and inbound and paid to book sales calls for a B2B sales process.